As I'm sure you've heard, the running back position in the NFL is currently dying. It's just not doing good. And I think there are a few potential solutions. There's also some absolutely terrible solutions that I've heard that would ruin the NFL. So first I'll go over some absolutely terrible suggestions that I've seen on places like ESPN or Reddit.
I ain't gonna be able to do the rest of the show, I'm telling you right now. It comes out of my mouth. I'm not gonna be able to control myself because I'm barely able to right now.
And the worst that I saw was getting rid of the salary cap. So, of course, you probably know the salary cap, the most a team can spend in a year. It's what keeps the NFL competitive. It's what keeps parity. It's what makes the league the best league out of anything. I mean, you don't watch baseball.
Oblivious to how good it is. Join the millions of subscribers, maybe even...
You watch football. And part of it's because football is better, but part of it's because there's more parity, which comes directly from the hard cap. So the reason people want to get rid of the cap is to say, hey, if there's no cap, then we can give the running backs more money and really all of the players more money. And while, sure, it gives them more money for a few years, then the league becomes less popular, the league sucks, and then everybody gets less. So that was probably the worst idea I had ever heard, and I just thought you should know, if you think this, stop.
This happens, Max. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. I just don't know. I just don't know. Go ahead.
And then part 2 of that bad idea was to not include running backs as part of the cap. But while it's not as bad, it's still super slippery slope because you start taking players out of the cap, it gets kind of dangerous. And who knows, in a few years, maybe the league will turn around again and running backs will make more money. But as you'll see in this video, the NFL can do a little bit to help running backs, but I mean, just if you want to make the most money in the NFL, don't be a running back, quite simply. The third idea I saw out there to fix the running back position that I think is bad is to shorten rookie contracts just for running backs. And here's another thing where I think just changing the way the whole league works for one position is just kind of a bad idea. Because let's say in 10 years, then the linebacker position doesn't increase, or the tight end, or who knows, whatever it is. Then we have to make another change for this other specific thing. And I think they should only make policies that kind of go to the whole league as a whole. You know what I'm saying?
No, it wasn't. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
So, those first 3, I just think are absolutely terrible. And then the fourth idea I saw out there was to combine the franchise tags of wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, and to make it like a playmakers tag. And while it would give tight ends and running backs a lot more money than what their current tag is, it would have a major downside of taking a lot of money away from wide receivers. So, that's kind of a quick rundown, but I really don't like any of those ideas. But I do have an idea that I think is great, and I don't actually see any downsides. And it comes in 2 parts. So the first part of the solution is for the top tier NFL running backs. This is for the people like Saquan Barkley, Josh Jacobs, anyone that you might have heard of that is just the best of the best, and then they want the big record-setting contract, and the team is like, no, we're just going to give you a franchise tag. Bam. Now, while this is not great, a franchise tag is still $10 million, which is a lot of money, but if you look at it over the past 10 years, it hasn't gone up at all. And if you look at it from about 5 years ago, it has actually gone down.
We need to be going up, not down.
So while the salary cap has shot way up, franchise tags for running backs has gone down. And this is because franchise tags takes the average of the highest paid running backs in the league and then gives this to them. So since the average of the highest paid running backs contracts went down, thus the franchise tag went down. So my super easy, simple solution to this that I haven't heard anywhere else is to make it a requirement that the franchise tag goes up each year.
That was easy.
I haven't completely nailed down what percentage I want to do, but what seems to work the best is going up about 10 to 12% per year as a minimum increase for the franchise tag. So that would mean currently the franchise tag is $10 million, so next year it has to be $11 million. And if the average contracts were greater than that, then that's great, the franchise tag can be higher. But it would have a minimum increase of 10% per year, thus it can't go down in value, and they wouldn't get screwed as much. And I think this would have a really good flow-through effect, because if the franchise tag is more money, then A, the running backs get more money from being on the franchise tag, kind of obvious, but B, the teams would be less likely to want to give out the franchise tag, so then they would be willing to give a longer contract more of the time, and it would probably be a higher paying long-term contract. Because if you have the option of giving them a $10 million contract for a franchise tag, you'll probably do that, but if it's in 3 years and now the franchise tag is $13 million or $14 million, you may no longer want to do that way. So I think this really fixes the thing. I don't want to get rid of the franchise tag because I actually think it has a good purpose of a player. If you have one really good year, I think the franchise tag works great. There's just a minor flaw, especially when it comes to running backs, because they've become well underpaid. Everyone else over the past 10 years, the franchise tag has about doubled or more, and running backs has gone up almost nothing. I think one really good example of the franchise tag working is with Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys. So if you don't know, last year he had a really good year, but he only had one really good year. So the Cowboys give him a franchise tag. I think everyone thinks it's kind of reasonable, because it was only good for 1 year. You want to test it out, and then in theory the following year, then you would give him a good contract if he does good. But with a guaranteed increase of 10 to 12% of the franchise tag amount, it would thus make the franchise tag give running backs more money guaranteed over time, and it would prevent any position from becoming severely underpaid like the running back has. But there's a second, much larger problem that not nearly as many people know about. So Saquan Barkley, Josh Jacobs, all the A-tier players, a lot of them were drafted in the first round or second round, which means they got a lot of money to start their career off. For example, Saquon Barkley, the first 5 years of his career, he made $38 million. So even if his next contract, his second contract, is not great, he's set for life. I mean, most of us will probably make at most $1 or $2 million throughout their life. So Saquon Barkley making almost 40 in 5 years, I can't feel that bad for him. He's set for life. He doesn't have to do anything after football, even if he doesn't get a second contract. And this is a bit different since he was number 2 overall, but even Josh Jacobs, someone who was in the very end of the first round, still made about $10 million in the first 4 years of his career. So, once again, if you've made $10 million, I'm just not going to feel that bad for you. You're doing great. You've made $10 million. And I know agent fees, taxes, let's say he's made $5 or $6 million. I'm still not going to feel bad for you. So, I make nowhere near that much. The people that I feel bad for are people like Philip Lindsay or James Robinson. And you might know them, you might not. These are people who are undrafted, and also people who are late round picks in 6th or 7th round, and they just make nowhere near the amount of money. So, for example, Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay, if you don't remember, he started off as an undrafted free agent with the Denver Broncos, and he was excellent his rookie year, and then he kind of trailed off. He got hurt, bounced around the league a little bit, and this year he was in the XFL. And essentially it seems like his NFL career is pretty much done. So in his NFL career, in all of the years, he made about $5.5 million. So then taxes and agent, so let's say then he's down to about $3 million. So if someone's made $3 million in the career, I'm going to feel way worse for them than I will for Saquon Barkley, who's made about $40 million in their career. So, however, since they're undrafted, they play for a few years, they're good, and then they get kicked out of the league. No one really talks about them. But there is a few solutions for them as well. The first solution that I have is increasing by a good bit the amount that a rookie would get for being on the Pro Bowl. So currently, if you're on the Pro Bowl and you're on the losing team, you get $40,000, and the winning team you get $80,000. Well, this is a lot. You know, these running backs only get like 3 or 4 years to do their entire career. So if we changed it from average of $60,000 for a rookie being on the Pro Bowl team, if we increased it to $500,000 or even $1 million, this would severely increase the amount of money that these running backs would make in their short career. And it really wouldn't be that big of a deal because there are almost never running backs that make the Pro Bowl that are rookies, but when they do, they should really be rewarded for it. So this is one simple solution. Now there are downsides because only a few players make the Pro Bowl, but I do think it's a good first step. The other way I could see the NFL helping running backs on rookie contracts is by giving out incentives to players on rookie contracts. So the way it works now is there's kind of like a set in stone, this is what you give rookie players. But if you added for the entire league incentives to this, I don't really see the downside. It gives them extra money if they do good, and they don't get it if they suck. So, for example, it could be like, 10 touchdowns, they get $1 million or something like that. And it doesn't only have to be for running backs, it could be for any position, but running backs are the current issue because they're the poorest in the league, almost. But I think if you gave out incentives for such as like touchdowns or rushing yard or even receiving yards, this could really help out running backs that do good and thrive in their early years of their career, because there's a really good chance they're not going to play in the later parts of their career. I mean, you see this with Philip Lindsay, who the first 2 years of his career you thought, oh, he'll be in the league for 8 or 9 years, and then now he's in his 5th year and he's out of the league. Another example is James Robinson. His first year in the NFL, he was great, and he was an undrafted free agent, in case you didn't know, for the Jaguars. And then in his 2nd year, he was doing solid, and then he tore his Achilles, he got hurt, and he's kind of bounced around to a few teams this year, but he just keeps on getting cut. So he'll sign like a big contract with the Patriots with no guaranteed money, then he got cut. And he also signed with the Giants with almost no guaranteed money, so he could get cut again. So it's not just Philip Lindsay, it's really any undrafted free agent / like 6th or 7th round pick running back that explodes in their first year and then they die. So in review, my 2 solutions are that the tag has to increase by at least 10% for each position each year, and that rookie contracts need to have incentives that are sizable, as well as much larger incentives for rookies making the Pro Bowl. Now, of course, I don't think this will fix the running back position overall, because it's just never going to catch up to the wide receiver position. One, because it takes so much damage on your body that you don't last very long, and it's been proven year over year that they're not nearly as important as other positions. I mean, for example, I just saw this list on Reddit, and 12 of the past 15 Super Bowl winning teams did not have a 1,000-yard rusher. And it was as low as the Patriots with a 400-yard rusher as their leading rusher for the year. So nothing you can do is going to make running backs make what wide receivers make, but we can increase it. And if this has you feeling down a little bit, don't feel too bad, because even if the league pays running backs as little as they can, here is the minimum salary chart, and it looks pretty good to me. So this year, the lowest you can make in the NFL is $750,000. So even if they're paying these running backs nothing, they're still getting almost $1 million, which of course puts them in the 1% of the world. They just might not be able to retire after 1 year like players like Saquon can. So I hope you liked the video. Subscribe, like, leave a comment if you have any comments on the video. Yeah, bye.